My name is Jake Mulvey, and I am a member of the recruiting team based here in our Boston office. I first want to make sure that everybody signs in for tonight's event. And so you can do so by using the QR code here. All you need to do is bring out the camera on your phone and then hover over the QR code, and that should prompt you to sign into the event. So if you do that now, we would greatly appreciate it. We are very excited to welcome you to tonight's information session. This is the kickoff for our engagement series this year. Our engagement series includes a series of virtual recruitment events that are designed to give all of our attendees the opportunity to learn more about economic consulting, healthcare analytics, and then various roles and career paths that AG has to offer. Our presentation tonight is going to last about 35 or 40 minutes, and there will be time for Q&A at the end of our session. We certainly do encourage you throughout the presentation to take advantage of the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to submit questions, and we will hold those for the end of our session and answer those as a group. I will also do our best to answer those individual questions throughout the presentation. So we'll certainly be monitoring that Q&A feature. With that, I do want to hand it off to our presenters to begin our introductions. So at this point, I'm going to pass it off to Lindsay.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lindsay Jansen. I'm a senior analyst in our Denver office. I've been with AG for a little over 2 years now. And at AG, I've worked on a wide variety of cases, but I tend to focus my cases a little bit more on consumer data privacy and marketing-esque cases. And prior to AG, I went to St. Olaf College, where I majored in mathematics and economics. And now I'll pass it off to Cassie.
Hi, everybody. I'm Cassie. I'm a senior healthcare analyst in the San Francisco office. I've been with the firm for about 2.5 years. And at AG, I work primarily in the health economics and outcomes research HEOR sector. Before joining AG, I got my bachelor's degree in biology at Colby College, and then my master's in public health at Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. And I will pass it over to Ava.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ava. I am an analyst in the DC office at AG. I started a little over a year ago in June of 2022 after graduating from Tufts University in May of 2022, where I studied economics and international relations. And I primarily work on finance cases, as well as a little bit of antitrust and intellectual property. I'll pass it over to Calvin.
Hey everyone, my name's Calvin. I'm an associate in the Chicago office. I've worked at AG for a little over 5 years now. I originally started as an analyst back in 2016 after graduating from the University of Michigan. Primarily as an analyst, I worked on finance and antitrust work, and then I went and got my MBA from Kellogg at Northwestern University and have since returned as an associate, where I've continued working on finance cases.
All right, so I'll kick us off with a little bit of a roadmap for what we're going to touch on in our presentation today, and what we'll talk about over the next half hour before we turn it over to questions. So we'll first talk about who we are as AG and give you all a brief overview of our company and our geographic growth. Then we'll move on to our work. We work on many different interesting analytical cases, so we would love to touch on those. Then we'll move on to our culture. We foster a collaborative, supportive work environment, and we'll get into that a little bit. Then we'll move on to the role. We'll talk about the analyst role as well as the associate role. Analysts specifically gain a variety of technical and analytical skills at AG. And finally, we'll talk about our events throughout the application process and all of the work that we are doing through our various engagement series sessions. So yeah, let's start with the roadmap of what AG looks like today. We are one of the largest economics consulting firms. We have over 1,200 people in our offices, and we have over 14 offices globally, which we'll get into. We are a privately held company, which we are very proud of. We have 9 offices in the US and an additional 5 offices internationally, with our Paris office that opened in 2018, and we have several others throughout Europe and Asia, as well as Canada. Since 1981, we've provided expertise in economics, finance, healthcare, analytics. Our clients include law firms, top law firms, Fortune 500 global companies, as well as a number of government agencies. And we also partner with a large and vast network of industry experts and academics from leading universities, just really partner with those folks to offer our clients a great depth of expertise. So as I touched on before, we have 14 different offices. We started from 1 and we've grown to 14. So we have a really large global presence now. We've also grown in headcount from that 1 office now with those 1,200 employees. We have a really diverse international pool of employees across our offices. And we always invest in visa support for new hires. Our employees come from over 40 countries and actually speak more than 40 languages. And many actively seek transfer opportunities across our global offices. In terms of our scope of work, that has also expanded over the years. So there's a deep expertise among our experts in the core practice areas of antitrust, intellectual property, finance, and healthcare. And we're also expanding our work into the energy, environment, and health outcomes economics research, which we will talk about further. This is called our HEOR practice. I'm going to pass it on now to Cassie.
Great, thanks. So I'll talk a little bit about the work that we do at AG. Our client work tends to fall into 2 main categories, so either litigation work or healthcare work. And the simple way to explain what we do is we help companies, law firms, or government agencies solve analytical problems. Oftentimes, this is in the context of a litigation matter or in relation to health research on healthcare issues, potentially in drug safety studies or others. In our litigation work, we're often retained by leading law firms to represent an underlying client, many of which are Fortune 500 companies. And then in our healthcare work, we partner with leading healthcare organizations on major policy and health outcomes issues, such as mental health or others. And in my experience, I've worked mainly with pharmaceutical companies such as Merck, BioMarin, Pfizer, or others. So our consulting case teams build analyses to support complex questions, such as some of the ones that you see here. The questions we answer and the nature of our casework varies considerably from project to project. And some cases have a super quick turnaround, while others may take years to complete. Case teams can range from just a few people to a few dozen people, depending on the scope of work as well. And while each case is different, a common theme is that we do highly analytical work aimed at answering complex questions, and we do this with an emphasis on teamwork. We definitely have a very collaborative approach to answering these questions. So we can give some examples of our casework. As I mentioned before, I'm a healthcare analyst, so I work primarily in the HEOR sector. And I worked on a case that wrapped up a few months ago that was aimed at exploring the societal impact of launching a gene therapy for hemophilia A. We created a societal impact model which considered patient demographics, epidemiological inputs, treatment costs, and societal costs to estimate the burden of hemophilia in the US, and then compared different scenarios around the introduction and launch of this gene therapy in order to estimate the total economic impact and subsequent cost savings from a societal perspective. And we ended up creating an abstract and poster for analysis that will be presented at an upcoming conference. So I'll pass it to Lindsay now to share an example of some litigation casework.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I work on the litigation side of the firm. And an example that I like to share with others is, as I mentioned, I work on more marketing, consumer data privacy, consumer behavior type cases. And on a specific case I was working on, there was two companies, and these two companies sold similar consumer products. And in this case, we were examining whether or not certain advertising language used by our company caused consumers to be, one, either confused on which company they were purchasing from, or two, if using that, certain advertising language related to the other company was aligned with Google's advertising policies or was a common practice in the advertising space. And so to do this on this case, we looked into a lot of other similar competitors in the market and what their advertising practices were. And then we also did a lot of research on consumer behavior, so academic research, on whether or not consumers are confused by advertising or if they knew whether or not what the product was. And so now I'll jump into another litigation matter that we'd like to share and talk about. So sometimes we work on behalf of companies. As we mentioned earlier, sometimes we work for government agencies or law firms. But in this example I'm sharing, this is about a copyright infringement case. And so in this case, AG was retained by a law firm to represent the company LovePop. And this is a company that creates and sells 3D pop-up greeting cards. And we were hired to help estimate damages in a copyright infringement lawsuit brought against this company. So to give you some context, LovePop first filed a complaint against another pop-up card company called PaperPop for copyright infringement. Following the filing of this complaint, PaperPop filed counterclaims against LovePop, alleging that LovePop actually infringed on PaperPop's copyrighted designs. So at AG, a managing principal at AG named Aaron Eder, he actually served as LovePop's expert witness, and he responded to the damages opinion offered by the PaperPop expert. And so what our expert, Aaron Eder, did was he calculated damages from the alleged copyright infringement using the two companies' financial data. And what he did is he actually corrected the flaws in the other experts' analysis. And so we like to share this case because this case required a deep analysis of LovePop's selling channels and other marketing methods that they offered to consumers. And as an example, the other experts assumed that if LovePop hadn't infringed on their alleged copyrights, PaperPop would have sold all the cards that LovePop sold. But a large portion of LovePop's sales were through their website, and PaperPop didn't sell online. Therefore, our damage expert actually estimated damages were much lower than the estimate offered by PaperPop's expert. And from this analysis, the jury found that LovePop held valid copyrights for all the cards issued in the lawsuit and awarded LovePop damages for the cards that PaperPop actually infringed upon. And so this was great news for both AG and also for our clients. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about how we work. And so we'll talk about these. AG always is mentioning these themes when we're talking about our culture, and you'll hear these themes again and again. And so in these presentations, we just wanted to start getting this conversation going. And so one of the first components of our culture is AG's excellence and rigor, excuse me. And so at AG, we strive for high quality in everything that we do, meaning that we value that our work is error-free and that our views that we present in court are backed up by data or facts. All of the work that we do has to be error-free because the work that we give to our clients has to stand up under scrutiny in court, and attention to detail really matters here. And at AG, even from day to day, things that aren't, presented in court, the excellence and rigor we apply to even our emails are things that will surprise people. If you see an email at AG, it's probably been well reviewed and is pretty much error-free. The next thing that we value at AG is collaboration and a one firm approach. We want to tackle problems together at AG, and there are a few ways that we do that. One way is that all the work that we do is done on teams of some kind, case teams or admin teams. There's very few instances in which you're working on something that you're not collaborating with another individual at the firm. Another example is that at AG, we have 14 offices, but we actually operate as one firm. And this can mean that while I might be in Denver working on a case, there could be individuals working on the same case that are operating in the London office or the Boston office. And so AG really strives to staff cases so that the best people are working on each case and it's not limited to one office or the other. The next thing I'll talk about is the development of self and also the development of others. At AG, we really value our people, and one of the most valuable assets is our people, and we want to help each other grow. And we also believe in personal agency, meaning that people should be in charge of their own learning experiences. So what this means is that at AG, you'll have exposure to a lot of different departments, practice areas, cases, because people need to learn and people are going to learn from different experiences. And then at AG, we also really rely heavily on learning and development initiatives. And so as someone who works at AG, you have a whole array of learning and development seminars or videos that you can lean on to grow in your career. And then the next aspect I'll talk about is trust and respect. This means that at AG, people believe that good ideas can come from anyone on a case team. It's really not uncommon at AG for analysts to identify issues in a case team or to offer analytical approaches and to suggest new approaches to a team. It's not limited to just the senior staff of the team. Everyone is really well respected on case teams. And then the last thing is that AG, we really pride ourselves in being an inclusive and welcoming workplace. AG is a place that, believes in a diverse workforce and directly supports the goals to provide the highest quality work to our clients. And the next thing I'll do is briefly cover some of AG's diversity, equity, inclusion efforts. So at AG, we aim to attract a diverse international pool of top talent from across the globe. And AG actually invests in visa support for new hires. At AG, our employees come from over 40 countries and speak more than 40 languages, and also can enjoy transfer opportunities amongst our 14 global offices. At AG, we have a wide variety of affinity groups like AG Pride, Black at AG, and AG Women Plus. I'm actually a member of AG Women Plus, where I help lead peer mentoring circles, and that's been something that's been really enjoyable for me during my time at AG. And AG is also initiating other affinity groups like Latins at AG by the year end, and there's several affinity groups in the works as well. AG is also really actively expanding their efforts to increase racial diversity at the firm through their hiring processes, while also partnering with organizations that work to empower different workforces. And AG also is investing in external counseling and consulting to provide firm-wide unconscious bias training and to also foster a more inclusive and supportive environment. The next thing is that at AG believes that you should bring your whole self to work. And what that means is that AG encourages a diverse workforce, and that provides the highest quality work. And equity and inclusion are a necessary tool at AG to really unlock the power of that diversity. And then the last thing is that AG is really expanding the number and scope of pro bono initiatives. Many of the initiatives at AG relate to underserved communities and also issues of racial justice. While I went over this slide fairly quickly, I really encourage you that if you have any questions about any affinity group or AG's diversity efforts or pro bono work, you should reach out to HR or a recruiter. And then the next thing I'm going to talk about are some of the benefits and resource programs at AG that are employed to support our employees' well-being. The first thing being wellness programs. AG offers a variety of both traditional medical, dental, vision, and financial support options, but other things AG offers are perks related to fitness reimbursements, alternative medicine coverage options, self-run reimbursement, and home office reimbursement programs. There's a lot of flexibility in these programs, Like, for example, I have a gym of my choosing, and AG offers like $50 towards my membership each month, which is really awesome. The next thing is that AG offers some different options for family and personal leave. So there are times that at AG you might need to work for an extended period, might need to be away from work for extended period of time due to parental leave, or for some your own medical condition, or to care for an immediate family member, or for any other reason. And in these instances, AG offers a variety of leave and absence options. The next thing I'll touch on is AG's hybrid work schedule. So at AG, we primarily work in office. This is around 3 days a week. At AG, we're expected to be in office, but there's also the flexibility to work remotely 1 to 2 days a week. At AG, there's a strong culture that we can be really successful when we're all working together in the office for at least 3 days a week. But that also, there's flexibility that's offered as well, and this is really appreciated by everyone at the firm, including myself. And then the last thing is that AG really emphasizes community, and that employees should engage in activities outside the office and inside the office together. For example, in the Denver office, we're really into playing foosball when we all need a break, and this is really encouraged. The partner in the office loves when he sees us in the kitchen playing foosball when we need a break. But then there's also other things that we do to get together. There are happy hours. We're getting a kickball team started in the Denver office. So AG also encourages like weekly outings like that as well. And then the last thing is that the firm also hosts special events each year, like ski weekends for different offices, that you guys can, so that we can all get away together for a weekend, which is really great. In Denver, we go to Steamboat each year, which is super fun. But if, like I said, similar to the DE&I slide, if you have any questions about any specific benefit or resource, please reach out to a recruiter or HR. And now I'll pass it off to Ava to talk about the analyst role.
So as an analyst at AG, you work on a really wide variety of tasks and develop a really vast array of skill sets. It can be really hard to write a job description of what an analyst does at AG because it changes from case to case and from day to day, but I'll highlight a few key components of the role. As an analyst, you're exposed to multiple projects at a time across a broad range of practice areas and industries. As I highlighted earlier, I work primarily on 3 different practice areas, so I've gotten a lot of exposure to many different types of cases and analyses. You're provided an opportunity to work with top professors from leading institutions, counsel from premier law firms, as well as corporate and government clients. Our casework is varied and intellectually stimulating, and it provides analysts with exposure to unique topics and data sets. Analysts play an integral role in our case teams, whether it's from the inception of a case all the way through the case filing. Analysts are making contributions at every step of the way, and throughout their tenure, develop in-demand technical, analytical, and communication skills. An analyst plays all kinds of different roles depending on where they are in the life cycle of the case, what the case team structure is, and what the type of analysis the case needs. So I can touch on a few of my case experiences. I've seen all sorts of data sets in my work at AG, whether it's from insurance claims data to real estate house pricing data to online advertising data. So getting exposure to all of these different types of data sets can be really interesting. And it's been a great opportunity to be able to develop the skills to analyze them using different software such as Python, Stata, R, and these are not all skills that I came into the role with. A lot of these technical skills are skills that I've learned on the job. So it's been really awesome to be able to have the opportunity to do that. In the last week, for example, I've been working on a pharmaceutical patent infringement case that I'm filing this Friday. On this case, we've been trying to calculate the damages that an infringing company might owe another one. So by doing this, we have to find many different creative and interesting ways to solve problems and find a unique solution to calculate these damages. And I've had to analyze different insurance claims data and data, and that has been a really interesting exercise. And I'm looking forward to filing the case. On other cases, for example, you might get opportunities to have more qualitative roles. So that might involve reviewing and summarizing depositions, or contributing to qualitative research by looking up analyst reports, news articles, academic articles that can be helpful towards the expert in their expert report. And all of these are different types of tasks that you might do on a daily basis. You can find yourself doing a wide variety of different qualitative and quantitative tasks every day. So, for example, on another case that I was on recently, it was a trade secrets and breach of contract case where we were working to understand a contract dispute between two real estate investment trusts. On this case, I had the opportunity to develop my case management skills and take on a role as a bit more of a lead analyst. I got to contribute to the case strategy, work at a high level with case managers, and it really helped me develop my own agency and sense of ownership over the work product, which is not something that I necessarily came into the role with. So I definitely learned a lot about myself and how to help the team in new ways where I could take on a bit more of a leadership role after being at the firm for over a year. Those are just a few examples of the different types of things that you might do on a day-to-day basis. There's also a few other interesting things that you might find yourself working on that are not even case related at AG. You might be involved in peer mentoring people who are newer, interns, for example, new hires, which is a great opportunity to work with others and develop your leadership skills as you get further on in your tenure. You also have the opportunity to engage in diversity, equity, inclusion work, which was touched on earlier, as well as opportunities to train others who are starting below you. And you also might work on special projects like assisting experts with drafting their own academic papers that might be separate from the normal day-to-day work that we do at AG, but it just gives you a great exposure to the wonderful and intelligent academic talent that we have here. So I will pass it on to Calvin to discuss the associate role.
Thank you, Ava. Okay. Can we go forward one slide? Thanks. So I'm going to briefly walk through the associate role, and I'll try to touch on a little bit of the differences between analysts and associates, because I think I saw a question in the chat about that. And I'll discuss this on the next slide as well. But fundamentally, the difference between when you're applying for a role at Analysis Group, you apply for an analyst role if you have an undergraduate degree, and you apply for an associate role typically if you're pursuing your MBA, if you're currently pursuing your MBA or your PhD. But in terms of what we actually do in the associate role, a lot of the things are generally similar in terms of what types of work product we're producing, similar to the analyst role. But there are it moves a little bit higher up, and I'm going to try to exemplify that through a few of my case examples. So to provide some color, on a recent matter I was working on, our team was tasked with valuing a relatively unique infrastructure asset. And in this valuation of this asset, we weren't able to apply what are thought of as traditional fundamental valuation techniques. And so as the associate on this team, a lot of my time was spent brainstorming with managers and analysts on the case team, as well as just sitting at my desk and sometimes not even doing very much besides reading research and papers and just sitting and thinking to try to develop an economic or financial framework that we could apply in the case and use in our experts report. On top of that, once we developed this framework, I worked closely with analysts on the case team to then begin implementing and operationalizing the framework that we had settled upon. So as I mentioned, there wasn't a lot of data on this case to implement a traditional framework, and there wasn't a lot of data to implement even the somewhat more alternative framework that we were proposing. So we had to kind of get together and develop an efficient process whereby we could download and find all of the data necessary to conduct our analysis. And so to do this, I needed to coordinate effectively and communicate effectively with our analyst team so that then they could operationalize the tasks that we wanted to perform. On a separate case I've worked on, It's a current ongoing case related to a bankruptcy dispute. In this case, I've worked closely with analysts to try to find other research research that we can leverage and use in our experts report. And then I coalesce a lot of that information, and I've been able to present it to our experts on the case as well as members of senior staff. So to generally summarize, the associate role is a bit of a blend between, something that you might expect a manager to do, as well as a lot of the work that analysts do on casework. So you have to have a sound understanding of a lot of analytical skills, as well as organizational skills, to make sure you can help analysts operationalize and organize their tasks. You have to have strong communication skills so that you can present the results to the experts that you work with, the clients that you work with, or members of senior staff here at Analysis Group. And potentially one of the most important aspects, I think, once you move up to the associate level, is you have to be, I think, kind of excited about generally the work that we do. I find that I very much enjoy the challenging rigor of a lot of the types of cases that we get to work on Analysis Group. And so that allows me to come in kind of excited every day to, sometimes just have to sit and read through research papers to try to come up with a solution to a complex task to help our client and to help our expert. So on this slide, we're going to walk through a little bit of the development of analysts and associates. So the firm does, I think, an exceptional job of developing talent here at Analysis Group. I think someone earlier mentioned how, the most important asset here at AG is usually the people. I think that's probably the case at a lot of consulting firms, as human capital are basically one of the only assets that we own. So I think I can give a little bit of color on both aspects here, since I was previously an analyst, and now I'm an associate. As an analyst, when you first come in, Analysis Group is a bit of a niche firm, so sometimes individuals don't have a very strong understanding of precisely what we do, of the exact skills that you need to be successful in your casework. So in your first couple of weeks at Analysis Group, you'll be able to attend AG orientation, where partners at the firm and other members of HR are going to present on types of casework that we traditionally work on, as well as other facets of the firm that would be helpful to know for incoming analysts and associates. On top of that, we have a very rigorous training modules where you can learn as an analyst or as an associate how to code in different programming languages such as Python, R, Stata, SAS, as well as how to use Excel efficiently. On top of that, we also have an advisor and mentoring program. So when you come into Analysis Group, you're going to be paired with one mentor who's going to be someone at your same level at the firm. So for example, analysts who come in have a more tenured analyst as their mentor, and you'll also be paired with an advisor. So that'll be someone who is more senior to you at the firm, and your advisor will also be someone you can go to and rely upon in the case that you want to work on a broader set of casework or other matters that are important to you to have addressed during your work at Analysis Group. One last thing that I want to highlight about Analysis Group's analyst development is, and this is something that I took advantage of towards the end of my tenure as an analyst. There is a graduate school workshop that is very, very helpful for analysts who are seeking to, move on from their time at Analysis Group. And to give a little bit of context here, analysts, as I mentioned, you can only be promoted to associate if you have a master's degree or a PhD. And so as a result, analysts who only have undergraduate degrees typically leave within around 4 years of joining the firm. So as a result, we have a graduate school workshop where analysts who are seeking to pursue graduate degrees in law, in MBAs, or in PhDs get paired up with other individuals at the firm who have pursued similar paths and assist them in completing their applications. So, and to be completely candid, it is a very, very helpful process, and I found it to be very helpful for my own transition into an MBA as an analyst. So the last thing I'm going to be talking about is the typical career path at Analysis Group. And this has been slightly touched upon by a few of the topics that I've already discussed. But so as an analyst, when you first come in, you will begin to develop a lot of these technical skills and understandings of the work that we do that, we have been highlighted throughout this presentation. And typically after around 1.5 to 2 years, you'll be promoted to a senior analyst, in which you'll take a little bit more responsibility in running the analyses in your casework. And you'll probably get a little bit of a sense of what the role of an associate is as you begin working as a senior analyst. After that, if you're a senior analyst and you don't have a master's degree, one thing that happened and happened to me, for example, is you go pursue a master's degree, either an MBA or a PhD, and you may have the opportunity then thereafter to return as an associate at the firm. As an associate, you can continue to develop these further, project management skills, developing rigorous financial models, developing economic models, as well as improving upon your communication skills and organizational skills, which will allow you to continue to move forward in your career at Analysis Group into subsequent roles. Obviously, I'm still an associate, so it's a little bit difficult for me to talk about exactly what skills you need to be successful, to be a manager, VP, or managing principal or partner. But I think, one thing that's very helpful about, your career development at AG is there are very specifically outlined criteria for each role at AG. So for analysts, there's a list of competencies that each analyst should have, and once you meet those competencies, which are discussed during your performance review process, you're allowed. Those are discussed with the partners and advisors at the firm, and then based on your ability to complete those competencies, you have a better likelihood of moving up. So it's nice that there's a well outlined and specified process whereby you can continue being promoted at AG.
So I'll talk a little bit about future opportunities at the firm. So as Calvin mentioned, an analyst typically stays at the firm for about 4 years and can't be promoted without a master's degree. And because of that, a lot of analysts consider graduate school as a next step. So most analysts will go on to get their MBA, and we have analysts attending a number of top schools for this program. Such as the MIT Sloan School of Management, the Booth School of Business at U Chicago, or the Haas School of Business at Berkeley. There's also a number of analysts who go on to get PhDs, JDs, or some other sort of master's degree. And certainly within the healthcare sector, getting an MPH is quite common. We tend to see really strong placement at top schools, and that's because schools recognize the skills that analysts develop at AG. We also have a strong network at top universities that help draw in analysts into these programs. And again, as Calvin mentioned, we also put on a number of grad school workshops. So the goal of these workshops is to help applicants be more efficient and effective at navigating the graduate school application process. And as an analyst, you can certainly apply to school without participating in the workshop, although they are quite helpful. So the program provides comprehensive advice through 11 different workshops organized across the firm, and they include in-office visits from admission officials from top MBA programs. We have workshops on how to research and select different programs, advice on resumes, essays, and recommendations. And in these, applicants are paired with multiple AG staff who provide feedback on essays or things like that. We do interview preparation and then can also provide advice on making your final decision if you are admitted into a school. So as mentioned on the prior slide, AG requires a graduate degree for progression to associate. And the firm believes really strongly that a degree is important for several reasons. It'll help acquire a deeper and broader toolkit and additional perspectives that are critical to our line of work. An advanced degree will also provide a richer foundation for collaboration with academic and internal experts, and also supports your ability to innovate around new opportunities and the challenges that our clients face. And then an advanced degree also offers salient signals to clients and the market that we bring deep expertise to bear. And that's a really key part of the value proposition that we offer to clients. And so because of this, AG has historically offered sponsored return offers, or SROs, to certain high-performing analysts as a way to offset some of the costs of obtaining a full-time graduate degree. We definitely recognize that for a number of different reasons, leaving AG to pursue a full-time graduate degree is not the right step for everybody. So we now also offer a formalized sponsorship for part-time degrees that we're really excited about as well. So I can go into a little bit more detail on each of those options. So in the path to associate with a full-time SRO, an offer to return requires more than just confidence that the person's able to fill an associate role. It's also really important that the person is seen as having the potential to expand and grow in his or her AG career over the long term. So like everything at AG, offers to return are data-driven, but also require some challenging projections about future performance and capabilities. So when typically considering making sponsored return offers to analysts, AG will consider sufficient AG tenure for those who are headed to graduate programs of relevance to AG work. And so sufficient AG tenure is typically about 3 or more years. And that's because the firm will need enough data to support seeing this person operating already in the associate role. And then degrees of relevance typically are MBAs, some sort of MAs, MPHs, or PhDs. And then if you would like to take on the part-time master's program, it is possible to stay at AG and continue to further your education and continue working towards associate, as some people don't want to stop working for a number of years to attend graduate school. So the firm has recently launched a formal program for high-performing and high-potential senior analysts to pursue their degree on a part-time basis while continuing to work at AG. And through this program, you can receive reimbursement for a substantial portion of the grad school tuition costs. And so you can also get to an associate by transitioning from a senior analyst to an associate if you come in with a master's degree. So those senior analysts have demonstrated consistent and prolonged proficiency at all traditional aspects of the senior analyst role. And they also have demonstrated the ability to perform at a level of associate for a sustained basis of at least a year. So those senior analysts, they're really meeting a lot of the competencies already for an associate position, and they already have their master's degree, so they can kind of go right through to the associate role. And there's no exact time frame for promotion from senior analyst to associate, but for those who meet the criteria and promoted, the typical promotion path can be expected to take 3 to 5 years from joining AG, depending on individual achievements, prior job experience, and the type of graduate degree. So I can pass it over now to Ava to talk about the summer internship program.
So we offer summer internships in both the analyst and associate role. AG hires summer interns for a robust 8 to 10 week internship program. I think it's 10 weeks now. Generally for summer interns. So for summer analysts, this internship will generally happen the year before graduation. And for summer associates, the timeline for MBA candidates would be between their first and second year. And for PhD candidates, it's generally the summer prior to their graduation. So I'll talk a little bit about the timeline of the summer internship program. Summer analyst and associate intern responsibilities and contributions are essentially equivalent to our full-time analysts and associates. So summer interns will really get the opportunity to engage in the role as they would if they were a full-time analyst or associate. Some things that interns will experience include being staffed on real work, usually at least one and likely more cases, so that they can get a real sense of the work. So you can see in the timeline here that much of the internship is spent doing real casework and getting technical training. You'll also get exposure to work that we do outside of specific cases. There's lots of lunches with staff and practice area training sessions that take place throughout the summer to get interns a chance to learn more about the firm and the people that we have in our wonderful offices. Something that our employees tell us is really great about being employed here is the training that our employees have throughout the summer. We ensure that summer interns get extensive on-the-job training as well as more technical training in programs like Excel, Stata, SAS, as well as those general practice area overview trainings that we provide throughout the summer. As we've touched on earlier, mentorship is really important at AG, and we like to make sure that all employees at every level of the firm have a formal mentor, and that is available to interns as well. So every summer intern will get a peer mentor, an advisor, and a senior staff contact. So the learning at AG happens not only through training and mentorship, but also through feedback, which we really emphasize throughout the firm and which is provided to interns as well. So throughout the summer, there is a midsummer evaluation where interns receive feedback collected from their case team members, as well as an end of summer review where interns get the opportunity to receive, again, feedback from all of their case team members and everyone who they've worked with throughout the summer. And the internship is not just work or training. There's also a lot of ample opportunities to get to know your colleagues outside of the office and outside of casework. So we always host a number of social events throughout the summer that interns are, of course, invited to. In the DC office, I know we had an ice cream social for our interns, as well as a number of happy hours. And we always make sure to go out to nice lunches with mentors throughout the summer as well. In the Boston office this summer, there is a big office-wide summer party, an intern voting event with barbecue, trivia night, and again, those nice dinners and lunches with your colleagues. Summer interns are really important and critical to the functioning of our offices at AG. We rely on our summer interns extensively to assist with casework and to develop their skills that they may eventually use in the future. So at the end of the summer, all summer interns are evaluated for a full-time return offer. Many summer analysts and summer associates receive and accept offers to return to AG full-time upon graduation. And in the navigating the application process session in the engagement series, the recruiting team will go over this more. So I will pass it back to Jake.
Thank you, Ava, and thank you to all of our presenters for that really helpful information. We have received a lot of great questions in the chat, and we apologize to those that we weren't able to get back to directly. I do want to make a quick plug for that navigating the analyst application process session next week. A lot of our questions that came through the chat were related to the application process, and we will go into that in depth next week, so please join us for that session. It will also be recorded, so you can view it at a later date if you're not able to attend on the 12th. And we also have up our different inboxes for our different roles. So if you do have any questions that were not answered, please feel free to reach out to us directly at these different inboxes. We do have a few questions that we can answer as a group. And so I'll pose these to our entire presenting board here. The first question that came through was, how much of a say do you have over the types of cases that you're staffed on? Lindsay, would you like to take this one?
Sure. So I think we all mentioned throughout the presentation that there are industries or practice areas that we might focus in. But that's to say at AG, I think it's really encouraged and welcomed for you to try out different practice areas or industries that you're interested in, especially on the litigation side of the firm. So when I started at AG, I worked on valuation cases, intellectual property cases, marketing cases, and I still do to this day. However, over time as an analyst, I've developed relationships with VPs and partners who tend to work more so in marketing or consumer data privacy or consumer behavior types of cases. And so, and I've also found that I like working on those types of cases. And so I've been able to voice, like when I'm being staffed on cases, that those are the types of cases I would like to be on. However, if you want to have a wider variety of casework, that's also encouraged as well. And so as an analyst, and I would imagine as an associate as well, you do have a lot of say in the type of cases that you work on.
Great, thank you. The next question that we have here is, what piece of advice would you give to someone who's considering pursuing a career in economic consulting? And for this one, Calvin, I'll toss it to you as someone who's worked at AG as an analyst and now as an associate. Is there any one piece of advice that you could share with the audience tonight?
Yeah, I would say, now I want to say a couple things. You have to, I think one of the most important things, and I probably should have highlighted this when I was talking about skills, the most important thing in our work, I think sometimes can be being very attentive to detail. And this is the nature of working in, economic consulting is an adversarial profession. We present, or at least the litigation side of it is. I'm sorry, I don't work in healthcare practice. So in the litigation side, we do a bunch of work and we work alongside our expert, and they serve that report to the other side in the context of a litigation. When it goes to the other side of the litigation, that side's going to closely scrutinize everything that we do, try to find any errors in the work that we do, et cetera, et cetera. And we get to do the same thing to the other side's work. But because of this adversarial nature and how closely people are going to be scrutinizing our work, we want to make sure that everything we do is very tight and there's not, to the extent possible, no errors. There are sometimes errors, it is what it is, but to make sure that they're not massive errors. And so to do that, you have to be very, very attentive to detail. So I think that's a skill that is important to emphasize. If you want to go into economic consulting, it's something important to work on.
Great, thank you. With that, we are just about at time. I do want to bring up the QR code one more time for anybody that joined a little late or missed this the first time around. If you wouldn't mind just checking in for the event by using this QR code, we would greatly appreciate it. And again, if you have any questions after this session, please feel free to reach out to us, either our group here, or if you want to reach out to our different recruiter inboxes, please feel free to do so. We'd be happy to connect with you. And again, we do have some more engagement sessions this week, and then we have a couple more next week as well. And so with that, I want to thank all of our presenters again for participating tonight and for really speaking about your experiences with AG. And finally, thank you to all of our attendees. We certainly appreciate your time and logging into this session, and we hope to connect with you down the line.